this is a guy, Jonesy, I'm sure you hold near and dear to your heart.
Sorry, I was placing a parlay.
Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk.
And hockey.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back, everyone. Episode 95 of Stick Talk Hockey is here.
And boy, do we have some news today.
Oh, do we ever. First of all, I am your host, Tico. This is my co-host.
I'm yours, Trilly.
We got our producer over there.
Producer Jay.
And yeah, back-to-back weeks with bombshell trades that happened hours before the show.
Thank God.
What
Is the curse broken?
It might be.
What did we do?
We might be in a new era of Stick Talk Hockey where we don't miss the big news.
Thank God. I have no words for how soul crippling it was to get back home.
Yeah.
And then check my phone and a trade happened on the drive. It's like, why?
So the saga is finally over.
And what a conclusion.
And it may not be a full exhale, right? Because there's still some other things going on in Vancouver. But the city can collectively sigh for a second as JT Miller has been traded to the New York Rangers.
100%. I mean, the Canucks may still have some toxic gas in the room, some gasoline running around, but at least they got the match out of there.
That's right. So, moments before game time today, JT Miller arrives at the arena, ready to play.
Bro walks into the dressing room 25 minutes before he gets traded.
Finds out he's scratched and then traded to the Rangers. So, let's break down this entire trade here. The New York Rangers acquire JT Miller, Eric Brandstrom, and Jackson Dorrington. Vancouver, in return, receives Philip Hedl, Victor Mancini, and a 2024 first-round pick, top 13 protected. If it's a top 13 pick, it turns into 2025 first, which will turn into a 2026 unprotected first if it's top 13 pick. So, Canucks media, or not media, but everywhere I looked online, Canucks fans just losing their absolute minds.
Oh, yeah, right? I was so confused by the sentiment behind it.
Okay, good. Because I'm totally open to being the lone contrarian here. But I'm glad that you kind of see it similarly because I actually was happy with this return.
It's more than what I thought.
Me too, 100%. With all of the rumors around the retention that they were going to need to get rid of the contract, how nobody was offering anything. I mean, you get pretty much the basic first player and prospect.
You can't really ask for more given the fact that you were on your hands and knees begging 31 other teams to take the guy.
And the guy had a no move clause. He had full control over where he got to go. I mean, Philip Hedl, I like the player. Obviously, there's a lot of fear there around the head injuries. And I'm nervous about that as well.
I understand the sentiment behind that. I get why a lot of Canuck fans were like, oh, why would we trade for a guy with concussion history?
Yeah.
Crosby had concussion history. Are they the same player? No, not by a stretch. But Crosby had 3-4 huge concussions before he was 26, and he's fine. He hasn't had another one since.
Playing,
yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, you get a guy. He's not JT Miller. Make no mistake about that, of course. But he's on pace for 20 goals. Plays center. He's younger. He's faster. I mean, I don't really have a problem with it, especially when you factor in this first round pick, which is a pretty powerful first round pick from a team that could be in the tank, along with Victor Mancini, who, granted, I won't pretend to know his game all that well, but he's a big right-handed defenseman, 22 years old, who's found his way into the NHL as a fifth round pick. He's played some games this year. I like the bet on him as well.
I like that too, because that's exactly what the Devils did with Kovacevic, and look how well that turned out.
100%.
He's not flashy, he's just big, and he plays the position you need, and he does it well. Like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Not every defenseman you touch has to be able to put up 75 points a season.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Unrealistic standards, but I think the fans have just had it too good with Hughes, where they're like...
And Hronik, for that matter.
Exactly. And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, and, I mean, granted, like, the Canucks have had very severe problems with getting anything from their defensemen that aren't those two.
Yeah, I actually took the time to go and watch some Canucks games this week.
Yeah.
Just to touch base.
Sure.
Woof.
Big Derek.
That guy sucks on ice.
Yeah, on ice. Yeah. So I mean, okay, you get younger. You get the pick. You get Victor Mancini, the prospect. You give up JT Miller, Eric Brandstrom, who wasn't playing, right? He's been healthy scratched. And Jackson Dorrington, who, like, I had to look up. I'm a pretty diehard Canucks guy. I had no idea who this dude is. They just have his rights. He's not even signed. I'm not.
I mean, there's a couple guys that, like, not having your rights, like, not having anything signed doesn't concern me.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, there's a couple guys on every team that are doing quality work, but why sign them if they're already committing to 4 years NCAA, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, Dylan James in Detroit is in his second year of NCAA still without a contract offer, and it's like, yeah, because they're gonna wait till the last second, and then pitch him a 3x7 or whatever min is now, 7.75, whatever, and keep him for as long as possible.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, I don't. It doesn't seem to me like there's much here at all. I hope there is for him, but I don't know.
Yeah,
doesn't concern me at all. Overall, though, I'm happy about the trade. You know, you don't retain anything. You get a first, and even if you take a step back on paper, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think when you needed this.
And, like, realistically, like, unless you're gonna do something else really brazen. We can admit it's still not your year. The team looks much better, arguably, and we'll get to why in just a second with the follow-up trade.
Yeah.
But you secure a 3C, like a solid 3C.
Yeah.
And now you have the cap space plus the cap going up to be able to go and acquire a 2C.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're stacked down the middle.
Absolutely. And even for, like, the remainder of this season, like, if you're playing Philip Hedl in a 2C role, like, that's not killing you.
No.
It's just not. Like, as much as it's not, like, elite or fantastic or anything like that, that's not killing your team.
No, absolutely not. He's not a black hole, like, in any sense. It's just the fact that he's probably a very, very good near elite 3C and a very mid-bottom pack 2C. And that's fine.
Yeah. And I mean, like, getting off that $8 million through 2030.
I don't know why that's so lost on, like, everyone in Vancouver. Like,
I know.
I've said it until my face turned blue in every group chat I was in. I was like, guys, you don't want to pay this man $8 million until he's 37. That's crazy.
It is. And I get it. Like JT Miller, the one thing I've really learned this week is that this trade is going to be very polarizing for a very long time, even if Elias Pettersson turns into a bona fide for sure 1C. Like, really, like, I talk to a lot of people about all week, right? Like, I work in a place around people.
Yep.
Most of my, like, regular customers and things like that all know that we do this podcast every week.
Yep.
So I always get asked hockey questions.
Fair. I love hockey questions.
It's been weeks on end that, like, people who don't even ask me about hockey, who just see it on the news, are asking me about JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. And the overwhelming majority of people in this market have thought for sure that JT Miller should be the one to stay.
What?
Yeah.
What? Why? He's older.
Yeah.
He's been on 3 good teams.
Yeah.
And they've
got booted.
Yeah, and it's not for bad play.
I think there's a recency bias of last year's playoff run.
I was going to say, when a guy is putting up, he's the second player behind Pavel Bure to finish his entire Canucks career averaging over
a point per game.
Yeah.
And see, of course, that's like, it's one of those stats where it's going to be brought up forever.
But he only played like 3 seasons, so
well,
it's like
he played
whatever.
5.
Oh, did he?
But he literally,
Really?
5 seasons in Vancouver.
Oh my God.
However,
Time's moving crazy.
Facts. However, it was all of his prime seasons. It was 26 to 31.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the early years struggles. You don't have the end years struggles, right? You literally just the prime seasons of this guy.
Yeah.
And then there's all this emotional leader stuff. People think, oh, well, he's a winner. He doesn't get knocked around like Pettersson does, things like that. First of all, I don't know how you can look at the emotional state of the Canucks this year and be like, well, whoever's leading this team is doing a great job. But, like, honestly, that line has driven me crazy all year. Oh, well, he gets the room going. Sure hasn't this year.
Yeah, what do you mean? And I mean, like, it's the same thing we say about all of the other coaches.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we say about Torts. It's the same. Like, you can only kick a guy in the ass so many times to get them going before they just don't. And I know, like...
Oh, he just wants to win so bad. It's the NHL. There's not a single professional athlete in the NHL that doesn't want to win.
Yeah, you're out of your gourd if you think that Pettersson is happy with his performance. Like,
no.
He's already chewing himself out on the bench. He doesn't need you to help.
Yeah.
Like, that's always my thing, too. It's like, hey, boss, you don't need to chew me out because I've been doing it for 2 days. Just leave me alone and let me fix it.
I would like to take this moment while we're talking about this to say one thing about exactly this, the Miller Pettersson thing that's been on my mind all week. And that is, who cares what works? Just do what works. Okay? So it seems when we look around the league that we are in the era of elite contributions winning. Forget the word superstar or all-star because that has like a notation of fame behind it, things like that.
Definitely.
But it's the elite contributors and the elite contributions that are winning Stanley Cups now.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you look at our last finals, that was Sasha Barkov against Connor McDavid. Prior to that, you had Jack Eichel winning cup, Nathan McKinnon winning a cup, Kyle McCarr winning a cup. Go down the list, right? I mean, Nikita Kucherov, et cetera, et cetera. That seems to be the era we're in now versus, I feel like in the 2010s, remember when it was like, well, the third line is going to be the deal breaker here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's changed so much because, like, you had to have certified, like, sluggers.
Absolutely. And even now, I think about Dallas last year, how we did talk about that. Well, look at how deep this forward group is. That's what can win them a cup this year. And they got walked by Connor McDavid, right?
Yeah. And I mean, realistically, like, coaching's just too far advanced too with analytics and stats. They're going to beat you in line matching eventually. You're going to have your third line out there against
absolutely.
Connor McDavid.
Against Connor McDavid.
And we saw what happened.
So in this era, you need to figure out the way to make sure your superstars are the best possible versions of themselves. That should be every organization's number one goal. And for a lot of them, it is.
Yes.
So if Elias Pettersson's not responding to this sort of tough love environment, and he clearly did respond incredibly well, was like a genuine top 5 center in the sport, outperforming guys like Austin Matthews under Bruce Boudreau. I need to get this out to all fans. Like, the answer isn't Pettersson needs to toughen up. The answer is do what makes Pettersson be a superstar.
And, like, we're acting like we didn't see this already. Like, how many years did y'all chew out the Cityans for being soft?
Oh, I know.
Call them the sisters. I thought we got past this.
We didn't. The people still do.
That's, like, it's crazy to just do it all over again.
I know.
Like, with a guy who's like an exact parallel,
Yeah.
cut from the same cloth,
Yeah.
through and through. It's like, you know what works. You have the roadmap. You figured it out.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, this whole world of Pettersson needs to toughen up. He needs to stop being a baby. Yada yada. It just drives me crazy. Who cares what works? Just do what works.
Bingo.
Anyways, let's move on, because I messaged the group chat right after this because obviously it was flying right off the rip here, and I said, that first round pick's burning a hole in Jim Rutherford's pocket. And I got to reply to my own message like an hour later with that first round pick out the door.
And how you feel about the return?
So, Marcus Pettersson coming to Vancouver. The Canucks saying, JT's gone. Let's get all the PDs.
The Triforce.
The Triforce of Petterssons. They now have everyone in the league. So, Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor going to the Vancouver Canucks from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh receives Danton Heinen, Vincent Desharnais, Melvin Fernstrom, and the first round pick that they had just acquired in the JT Miller trade. I think this is actually, first we should throw it to our producer Jay. How do you feel as a Pittsburgh fan about this trade?
I'm awfully happy.
Awfully happy.
Awfully happy. I was really hoping for a first.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had I feel like everyone knew in the Pittsburgh side of things that Marcus would be getting traded.
Yeah. I mean, the word on the street was that they hadn't had any extension talks, so yeah.
So I'm more than pleased with the first. And you were saying that Melvin Fernstrom,
yeah,
could be a guy.
I'm not gonna. So Melvin Fernstrom was the Canucks' third round pick this year, their first of the draft. He's not the quickest player, but I think there's something there with him. I drafted him in our Fantrax league, and he has a high IQ, high motor, and good vision. I think there's a lot to like there if you're looking at a Pittsburgh prospect pool.
Word. And we got fan favorite Dan Heinen back in the Berg.
Now that he's gone, like I'm actually like very happy he is gone. I can't stand that guy. I just can't. That guy does nothing on the ice ever.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna bag on a third line guy, but
I mean, yeah,
yeah, this guy is unnotable is the word you would roll with probably.
No, so I wanted to start with Jay here because I think it's a much more straightforward dub for the Penguins, right? They monetize two expiring assets, they take on some cap hit into next year, and they get a prospect and a first. I think that's just a dub.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially with the situation they're in. If you're able to get rid of two things you're probably not going to be able to keep.
Yeah.
And then still restock the cabinet without threatening any of your veterans, which has been the priority from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Fenway Sports Group hasn't changed on their standing, which
Sure.
is the band stays together.
Yeah.
And until they change their mind,
I don't mind it.
Dubas is pretty handcuffed in what he can do. This is best case scenario.
I think it's fine for Doobies. I like it. They're going to have 2 first-round picks this year for the first time since 2012.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's great.
That's huge. Let's just hope he doesn't spend them.
I have a feeling they're going to hang on to it. I think they have 10 first and second round picks over the next 3 years.
That's impressive.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jay, you should be excited about that.
I am. I don't know if we've touched on it on the pod, but Dubas is in the last year.
Yeah.
Straight hits.
I'm telling
No misses.
We may have not talked about exactly that. We haven't talked about that on the pod, I don't think. But I've been a long time believer of Kyle Dubas, and I still am.
Same.
Yeah.
I believed entirely that the issues that he had in Toronto were reflective of the invisible handcuffs that ownership and coaching constantly put on him.
And it's the same problem in Pittsburgh.
But he has flexibility
Now
here.
he does. Now he does.
Because if he found an answer in Toronto, he would present it.
Shanna plan.
Yeah. Anytime that he presented a decent solution,
Mm-hmm.
it was shot down out of the principal of just like different hockey philosophies.
Well, that's the thing, is that they just completely clashed on philosophy.
And it's like, from the get-go, it wasn't going to go well, because
No.
what are you going to do having an analytics guy working for a hockey guy?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oil and water, first of all.
This ain't the little itty bitty teeny tiny bowl. This is Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
No, I agree. Dubas, I quite like the GM. I think he's doing some good work in a very tough situation in Pittsburgh. Marcus Pettersson clearly makes the Canucks better.
Without a doubt.
They just so desperately needed like some real second pairing defenseman.
You weren't getting it from Derek.
You certainly weren't. And I mean, Marcus Pettersson, he's a good fit. Big body, the kind of guy that, Rick Tocchet and co quite like. Drew O'Connor, Jay, you say has had some flashes.
Yeah, he ended last season very well.
Yeah.
And he just hasn't lived up to it this year.
Yeah.
But I think there's a player in there where he can definitely be serviceable.
I like that. And I do trust kind of Jim Rutherford's pro scouting in a lot of ways, especially with forwards. Yes, there's been misses on the back end, guys like Vincent Desharnais, Derek Forbert, and things like that. But I mean, over the past couple of years, they're low cost acquisitions in the forward group. Pius Suter's been quite good. Obviously, Kiefer Sherwood's been a home run. Dakota Joshua was a home run last year. I quite like their buy low guys. So I'm happy to see that. The real thing with this trade, though, is it does hinge on all of this now hinges on, do they keep Pettersson, Marcus Pettersson?
Right.
Because really now you've traded the main things here that you've traded are JT Miller. You've cap dumped Danton Heinen and Desharnais for Marcus Pettersson.
I mean, all you have to do
and
is
Hedl, I guess.
All you have to do is make a deal, right?
Yeah. And
So-
and you got to think like Marcus Pettersson's played for Jim Rutherford. There's a relationship there from Pittsburgh.
And you're not gonna trade for a guy if you're not willing to offer him a bag, knowing he's a UFA, especially in the situation the Canucks are in right now.
Yeah. I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Yeah, they see his value. They will 100% match.
So it does really hinge on that, I should say. Like if Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor both don't come back, and you basically ended up trading JT Miller, Eric Brandstrom, Jason Dorrington, Melvin Fernstrom, Danton Heinen, and Vincent Desharnais for just Philip Hedl and Victor Mancini. That's terrible.
That's tough. But as it stands now, full assumption that he's going to re-sign, I think it's a great move.
And even then, right? Even if he doesn't, you are still getting that $8 million in cap relief over the next 6 years. But still, I agree. I think especially if Pettersson resigns, that's a great move.
And I mean, all of the money that you just saved on Miller, you can easily throw that towards your defensive pairings, which I've been saying needed to be done for a minute now.
Absolutely. And they open up 4.75 in cap space this season. That's with the acquisitions as well. Going into the offseason, that opens up an additional $11 million in cap space, giving them almost $30 million in the offseason this year. That's a lot of flexibility.
And you have a lot of great pieces, too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we look at a lot of teams with cap space, and it's like, yeah, you have cap space, but your team's shit. And there's not enough UFAs to fill a team with good talent.
Yeah.
But you only need to hit on one or two, and you're there.
And I mean, the crop of free agents is kind of crazy, honestly. Like this year and next season as well. I mean, obviously we'll see a lot of them re-sign over this offseason, but I mean, like, who's to say right now that the Vancouver Canucks, like, with how ballsy Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin has been, who's to say that they're not in the Mikko Rantanen sweepstakes this summer? Who's to say that they're not in on Mitch Marner this summer? Why not?
I mean, you probably should be. That's
And
the
you can
swing
be now.
100%, and that's the swings that we've been saying over the last few weeks. GMs need to make.
Yeah.
You know, the aggressive GM is the one that wins. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money for the Canucks, and that's pretty big. The one thing, real quick, before we move on from this, one thing we didn't talk about at all is the Rangers side of that trade.
Yes. Do you want to?
What are they doing?
I don't know.
What are they doing?
I saw a post. I was laughing about it with Jay when we came in. A Rangers fan page posted their like forward lines, and they were like, "Is this New York's time to finally get a cup?"
Yeah, is it?
No, dog.
No.
What are you
Not
talking
even in
about?
a playoff spot. Like, the Canucks have had one of the most, like, tumultuous seasons I've seen in a very long time. It's been disaster after disaster, and they're in a playoff spot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, like, let's not act like the Rangers have not been a hot mess.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
They just had the grace of having it all happen before the winter break, so we
It's true.
kind of forgot about it.
Yeah. And they like made a move to help it, right? They traded their captain away. I don't know, like it's one thing for teams like a Boston, who's also not in a good position, but they have such a like that like internal sense of like, we're very set in our team's leadership. We really believe in our team's leadership. Same with teams like Carolina and stuff. Those were teams where I was like, if JT goes there, I could see it working.
Yeah.
And I understand why the young teams don't want to touch JT Miller with a 10-foot pole.
100%.
But like those teams, it made sense. But the Rangers, with what a disaster it's been there, it's like that could be an absolute train wreck.
Yeah. I mean, you still have 2 to 3 players who should be performing way above their par right now.
Yeah.
And like they're complacent.
Yeah.
They're just, that room has no energy.
Nope.
When they take the ice, they look dead.
Yeah.
And they're making $8 million each. You think that a guy who was chewing out Pettersson is gonna stand for Zibanejad and Kreider dragging their ass?
Yeah.
No.
No, it could be a disaster. I don't really know what they're doing there. I'm interested to see how it plays out. JT, it was a lot of fun watching you as a Canuck for some of the times. It was really terrible some of the other times. So thank you for your service in the playoffs last year. And kind of f*** you for bullying our Swedish superstar into being traded out of the city.
Get out of here. Pack your bags.
Let's fly through some of the notes here, the news for the rest of the week. We're
actually
recording.
just to finish. Also,
yeah, of
my
course.
final point I forgot on this is that like, as much as we want to like blame Miller and Pettersson for not growing up, this is on the Canucks still because they traded away Horvat and signed Miller, with knowing there was a pre-existing problem and just going, it'll sort itself out. No, you have to take inventory of your room and actually like plan around that.
And you're right. You're right. I mean, this was a fail. It was a failure on all parties, right? It really was. I mean, you look at Rutherford's comments, you look at Bruce Boudreau's comments this week, and you look at the players as well, and it's like, okay, well, not only was this known about, but like it was worked on at a time.
Several times.
Like they did try to work through this, and clearly management and players thought it was workable because the management signed both of them long term. But the players also both signed those contracts long term, knowing that the other one was also going to be there long term. JT had to know Pettersson was sticking around. Pettersson had to know, he did know JT was already on contract for 7 years. Like, everyone here, there was some sort of breakdown here, and we probably won't get the story for a long time. That's like the stuff that comes out in a memoir in 20 years. You know what I mean?
I'm looking forward to it, though.
I am as well.
I need
Absolutely.
that book.
Yeah.
I don't read many books. I'll admit it. But I'll read
Facts.
that one cover to cover.
Cover to cover. Particularly if Bruce Boudreau wrote it. I would love to read a Bruce Boudreau book.
I'd love Bruce Boudreau to just start a podcast
Me
and
too.
talk for like an hour, like Bill Burr.
Just solo talking?
Just riffing.
Yeah, I like that.
Old
I'd
man
listen to
riffing
that.
about stories and stuff and just
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we're going to keep it light through the rest of the episode here. Just kind of go through the notes.
Yeah, let's rip through them, give you a quick update. If you really feel the need to go and look into them, then you can do it yourself. But
Absolutely.
they're not massive.
Yeah, just stuff we wanted to touch on.
stories.
Shout out to Marc-André Fleury,
The GOAT,
one of the GOATs, absolutely,
first ballot Hall of Fame.
for sure, yes. Becomes the first NHL goalie to post a shutout as a teenager and as a 40-plus-year-old. Woof.
Ain't that something? And to make it better, he does it a stone's throw from his hometown in front of his friends and family in the Bell Center, Montreal, Quebec. Ha
Really a beautiful thing. I mean, this is a guy, Jonesy, I'm sure you hold near and dear to your heart.
Sorry, I was placing a parlay.
Was it on DraftKings Sportsbook?
Indeed.
Thank you.
There you go.
Every time.
Every time. So, Marc-André Fleury, near and dear to your heart, I assume.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I
So-
think Fleury is actually like the greatest Penguin that I don't have a jersey of.
You don't have a Marc-André Fleury jersey?
Mm-mm.
Really?
Nope.
Friends of the podcast, Rich Homie Reed, I think is a diehard Canucks fan. And I think like the only jersey he owns is a Marc-André Fleury good jersey.
It is. It is.
That's wild.
I think he has two.
That
I think
guy
he's got
loves Marc-André Fleury.
He's got a Penguins and a Golden Knights Fleury jersey.
That's really something.
Ain't it?
Yeah, he's one of those guys for me that it's similar to Crosby and Ovi, where it's like I can't imagine a league without him.
You're going to have to get there pretty quick.
I know it's coming. I know.
Yeah, you can't write stuff like this, though. This is why I love hockey. Like, you could
Yeah.
get the biggest Hollywood brains in a room, and they still can come up with something this brilliant.
So that's fantastic to see. That was a great moment. Calgary and Philly made a trade this week.
Interesting one. They Calgary acquires Farabee and Frost.
Yeah.
They send over Petillier and
Kuzmenko,
thank you.
along with a second and I think a fifth.
Yeah, some nothing picks to push it over the line, as always.
Nah, I messed up.
Yeah.
Calgary trading a second is just crazy as hell.
It is. My thing about that trade is like it's a lot of like mustiness all around, kind of like you said, Jonesy, but it's a lot of guys who haven't really performed the way you've hoped they would, that get traded around. Farabee and
Petillier.
Petillier, like pretty close in age, which is weird.
I think it's Peltier.
Peltier,
Something like that.
something like that. Just not a lot there. Kind of like vibe switch for both sides, but just a very clear Philly dub because they get a second round pick out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a team, again, that has lots of picks in the cupboard and
Yeah.
need to keep adding them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not out of the rebuild by a long shot.
No.
They've managed to stay competitive thanks to the good grace of Torts' consistent kick in the ass.
Yeah.
But like we just said, that only takes you so far if you don't
Mhm.
supplement it. So,
And speaking of torts,
woof, button heads with the young kid again.
Matvey Michkov yet again.
And part of me, because Kuzmenko hasn't been phenomenal with the Flames by any
No.
stretch, but he had a decent back end to the first half of the year.
Sure.
But I almost wonder if this trade happened just so that they could bring in some Russian, some fellow countrymen for Michkov.
So here's the thing, like Kuzmenko is going to be electric besides Matvey Michkov, right? Andrei Kuzmenko can score goals.
Mm-hmm.
He will be Torts' whipping boy within 2 weeks.
Probably.
There's no chance. There's no chance that relationship holds any water.
Yeah.
No chance.
Probably not, but I mean, at least he's there to be a friend to a
Yeah.
kid who's still learning, and they have history. And
Yeah.
my other point was like, the only other Russian that I can think of on the team, at least right now off the top of my head, would be their goaltender, Fedotov.
Yeah.
And like that guy sits on the very end of the bench. He sits
do.
he sits right beside the your benched spot. So like,
That's right there.
how often are you gonna get to like have some levity mid game with like your Russian buddy?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah. And Andrei Kuzmenko is such a high vibes guy. Like that guy's a golden retriever as a human for sure.
and you need that. I
Yeah.
mean, look at how much fun Celebrini and Will Smith are having right now.
Exact 100%. The only problem is he's only going to play like 4 minutes a night because if Rick Tocchet wanted him booted into the sun, Torts is going to personally boot him into the sun, I think.
That's valid. That's very valid.
Overall, I give that trade a B plus for Philly and a C for Calgary.
Yeah,
I don't know why they did it.
I'm big on the Frost asset. I think he has a lot of upside that just hasn't been reached and like hasn't had a chance to really reach because of just the way Philly is.
Sure.
But with that being said, like you're still risking a lot. Yeah, I give it like a C plus,
Maybe
and then a B. Like
I'll go C plus with you. Yeah, and B. Okay, Saad.
Saad says, "Keep the money. I'm going home."
Yeah.
And the Blues say bet because they've been trying to move him for a
Yeah.
hot minute.
Adios.
But I mean, it's hard to move a guy like that at $5 million.
Yeah.
It's a big cap hit still.
Yeah.
In a very cap tight league.
Absolutely.
So trade's not happening. They basically said you're gonna go to waivers unless you do something about it.
Yep.
And he said, "No, I'm not playing in the AHL.
Yeah.
Get me out of here."
Yeah. So off to Vegas he goes.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably one of the quickest exits and re-signs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Besides maybe Bruce Cassidy.
Yeah. Out he goes. 1 year, $1.5 million. Beautiful.
It's a great acquisition, especially for Vegas.
Yeah, 100%.
Like they don't need another massively elite piece. They still
No.
kept all their massively elite
Yes.
pieces. They just need a little bit more.
Just getting some depth in there is perfect for them. Yeah.
And some experience. I mean, where hasn't Saad been? What hasn't he seen?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that. My last thing I just wanted to touch on here really quick. Because it's a nothing burger, I get it, but I was a little bit like, I know I'm biased, but I was upset that Charlie McAvoy got an A on Team USA's Four Nations team over Quinn Hughes.
Valid.
That's insanity.
That's total insanity.
And then we find out that the U.S. national team here, maybe you got some Hockey Canada in you. Because this Charlie McAvoy is Mike Sullivan, the head coach's son-in-law.
And it just made sense.
It all came together just like that. That's really about it. Real quick, do you want to do letter grades on the teams involved in those two Canucks trades? Not really.
Nah.
Okay.
They're a mess. They're a
Yeah,
hot mess.
They're all a mess. Except for Pettersson, or except for Pittsburgh. They get an A on that trade.
Yeah. Pittsburgh A plus. I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Canucks. What are you gonna do? Like, I'm not gonna grade someone
kinda
for
hard to,
doing
right?
your bare. Like, you know.
Yeah. Last up, go up to the top there, Jay, because we didn't even do that up front. I meant to, but
Our condolences do go out to the family and friends of Shawn Simpson, late Senators broadcaster and TSN 1200 host. Passed away at age 56. Thank you for being so open about your struggles, everything that you went through in your life, sharing your joys, your sorrows, and everything in between. This again just is really unfortunate and all too common in sports and in men's mental health in general. Check in on your friends, guys. Just even if it's just a hey, how's it going? It can make a world of difference to someone going through it. So we send our deepest condolences to his friends, family, the Senators and Capitals organization, who he worked with very closely, and all of the TSN cast and crew. From what I've heard, a beautiful soul who always charmed the room and had a lot of passion for the sport that we all share. So
Absolutely.
make sure to check in on your friends.
Mm-hmm.
If something's going on and you need some help, talk about it. We're here.
That's right. As always, I'm Tico.
I'm yours truly.
That's our producer.
Producer Jay.
Keep your head up.
Keep your head up.
Boom.
Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk. Stick talk.